Balance, 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 balance.
RevelatorAlf.
Ah, riding in the wet. Marvellous. Especially when I forgot my waterproofs again. There we go. Look, I feel a little bit out of sorts, I suppose. Not because I'm getting wet, because I suppose I'm thinking about possible upgrades to the bike and all that kind of good stuff that we all talk about, and we love talking about our upgrades, don't we? Whether we should, whether we shouldn't. But what I wanted to talk about today was actually not so much whatever performance upgrade you can do. I'm talking about performance upgrades here, by the way, not about aesthetic upgrades. But whatever performance upgrade you're going to do, I think you've got to look at the whole picture as well, and not just the individual thing that you want to do. So let's say, for example, I don't know, you want to do a stage 2 torque cam upgrade, right? Well, then also, really, should you just stick with the same brakes? What about suspension? What about, you know, adjusting the front forks? Would you even contemplate changing the front end altogether, or maybe just changing the springs? You know, watch my other videos about you know, the different types of springs for the front end. You got adjustable cartridge kits now from Öhlins, they do one. I believe Legend do another. You know, so they're Progressive, I think, even do one as well. So there are kits out there where you can change your Harley Softails. You know, for whatever you want. You know, spend another £1,000, you can change it. But then where do you stop? Where do you stop with all of this? Because you do a, you know, stage 2 upgrade, then you end up changing the front forks. And what about the rear shock? Well, you change the rear shock as well. So you do all of this just to make sure that the bike can cope with the extra power, and also if you need to stop a little bit more, can it handle the extra power in a bend? Can it handle the extra power, you know, in a straight line under braking and all that kind of stuff? And I'll tell you a little story. Now, a few years ago, a friend of mine, he had a car, and this is probably a story that you heard a million times before, whether it's a car, whether it's a bike. But he started modifying the car, doing the old performance upgrade here, changing a turbo there, you know, whatever. And he ended up having to keep on spending and spending and spending and making adjustments to the car, because essentially each time he did something, he was throwing the car further out of balance. Now, what I mean by balance is the way everything works with each other. All the different components, your engine power, your braking, your suspension, you know, your however the wheels track, you know, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's an odd one, isn't it? Because we all love to think that we can do our performance upgrades, but I wonder how many of us actually think about the whole bike, look at this holistically. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying for one moment that just because you've done a stage 1 or a stage 2 or whatever, you have to upgrade your brakes, upgrade your suspension. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying in trying to keep everything in balance or matched in terms of performance, then maybe that's really what you should be looking at. So instead of actually just going for a stage 3, stage 4 or whatever, really, if you're going to do that, make sure you've got everything else on the bike in check first of all, because you can make the bike go, but you've got to make it go around a bend, and you got to make it stop as well when you need it to stop. So that's, you know, that's a big thing really, isn't it? So how many of you have thought about it like this? How many of you have actually said, right, I'm gonna change the engine, I'm gonna do upgrades, stage up on the engine, but I need to do something else as well? Now, I think the beauty of the Harley Davidson in that there are spares or parts or accessories available pretty much for Every bike. Yep, the Sport Glide is a little bit limited, I know, but in terms of the Softail in general, not too bad. On all of them, you can do suspension upgrades, you can do brake upgrades, you can do custom brake upgrades. Everything. You could change the front end on this Sport Glide or anything. You could put it into a, you know, dual brake, dual disc, you know, brakes at the front if you want to. Just like, you know, Matt Laidlaw did with his, you know, Coast Guide incarnation, which he won the Battle of the Kings. You know, that was great. Let's see how much of an influence that bike now has on, you know, Harley accessories or any other kind of accessory provider. But I wonder, say, how many of us are really thinking about this, and how many have actually done it. You know, you're going to go for your stage 2, let's say. You get your suspension done. Well, that's going to be another couple of £1,000, front and rear. Maybe more, 2,500, depends on what you put in, of course. So that's 2,500. Then you think about your braking, front and rear braking. Well, you know, you may be in the region of about another £1,000. So that's £3,500. So for a, let's say for a £3,000, $4,000 upgrade on your engine, you're going to have to spend exactly the same again for the rest of your bike. And most of that you do on your bike is not even seen. It's you know, it's what people won't even know most of the time. They won't know what different forks you got or fork springs you've got, whether you got progressive ones or not. You know, they won't know really if you've changed your brakes or whatever. All they see is a motorbike with an engine, 2 wheels and a set of handlebars, and away you go. So just because you do the performance upgrades on your engine doesn't mean you have to ride it to the envelope. But reality is that a lot of people will do that. I'm not saying all, but a lot of people will. So if they do that, then they may need to really think about everything else as well. And you know, and what you think might be a relatively inexpensive modification to your bike, $2,000-3,000, all of a sudden can become quite an expensive modification, and the bike still isn't balanced. It's actually worse than when it came out of the box. I suppose that's one of my big fears about modifying the Sport Glide, in that I think it's a great bike as it is. Yeah, could it do with a little bit more power, a little bit more grunt? Yeah, of course it could. But you know, it's a great bike as it is, as all the Softails are pretty much. So, hey, look, let me know what you think. Let me know about this. Let me know if you would consider upgrading your brakes and suspension and everything like that. Check out my other videos about the monoshock, the rear suspension and the front suspension options for the Softails and the Sport Glide. And let me know whether you would do something like that. Do you regard motorcycling, riding your bike, in a kind of overall view, a balanced view? Or do you like think, now I'm just going to upgrade that and it'll be fine? Most of us, the overwhelming majority of us, don't have the money to be able to go and do all of this at once. But if you're going to do it, you might want to seriously think about doing it incrementally, and before, let's say, you go beyond the stage 2, you might want to think about spending the money on that kind of stuff as well. Food for thought. It's a discussion, isn't it, as a lot of these videos are, but it's just something that I'm kind of thinking about. I'm always conscious about is making sure my ride, my bike, is evened out across everything: handling, braking, you know, engine performance, that kind of thing. But what about you? Let me know. Please like, share, subscribe, leave loads of comments below, check out the website RevelatorAlf.com, and I'm going to get home and, well, go and dry these legs off. I mean, look at the state of those. Right, catch you again. Ta-da now. Meow.